I learned from these two men last week, because it's kind of a perfect segue, if you don't mind. Do you see what I did there? All right. So I want to go into Dan Clark, who I love and adore and is a dear friend. So as I talk about Chad and Dan, there's no diss here. It's just an observations of things that helped me to learn some things about myself and about speaking. So I'm just going to go down through in no real order, but since we just talked about keeping it fresh, I did see and notice. I've known Dan for years. I've heard him speak, since, like I mentioned, since I was 18, and he is a storyteller. But I can tell when he starts kicking in to an old story that he's told a lot of times. And I've teased him about it because we're good friends, of like, oh, you're going back into the mode. Oh, you're back into the old storytelling. And I kind of tease him and rib him about it, because your audience will feel the lack of freshness. You've got to keep your stories fresh. Now, if you have a killer hook and that's always a good story, find a different angle that will keep it fresh. So when I talk about the story about when I had 4 kids, 6 and under, and I was in the room and I had hired a babysitter for an hour and a half, and I was writing, what do you want? And what's stopping me? Blah, blah, blah. It was a signature experience for me. But I add in a little different detail every single time, or I emphasize something different each time, because otherwise it's stale and your audience can tell. And if they start becoming followers of you, you're going to be kind of like Aunt Lulu, who just keeps telling the same 10 stories over and over, and you just check out. So I really saw that there was a weary feeling he had on occasion that was almost like an old worn record. And I don't know that he saw that he recognized that he was tripping into that. That's what good friends are for, that we can insult them privately and say, yeah, you need to step it up. So that was something I learned. A second thing that I learned was, I mentioned this debate about the fiction and nonfiction of the stories and stuff. Ladies, I'm the only lady at that professional table. We go to a restaurant and we take these high profile speakers and we go to lunch, and I'm the only lady there. Sometimes Cheryl's there, but a lot of times she's not. And that's intimidating. You've got these people who've been doing this for years, and I'm trying to walk that balance of being feminine, but yet firm and professional, but not uppity. And that is it's a tricky thing for women. It just is. Once again, they make it impossible to be a woman, and we still rise to the challenge. Sorry, that's just the truth. So I'm sitting there at the table, and I had a moment where I could just nod and smile. And there are times when you just want to nod and smile, because they'll just go at it. I watch these guys and they're like 7th grade boys, and they just go at it trying to prove their point and whatever. And I just sit and eat my salad and I just smile and nod. That is interesting. That is one way to look at it. And I just don't even engage, because it's not even worthwhile. But I could feel this was a point, and Dan was sitting right next to me, and he just roped me right in, just like he did at NSA. He just roped me right in. I'm like, dude, so if you're going to rope me in, then you know what you're going to get. So, and that's why he did it. He's got a little bit of rebellion in him. He likes to just poke the tiger. Anyway, I had to make a decision. Am I going to actually stand up for what I think? And I did at the table. And not too many people agreed with me, actually. And they kind of mocked it for a minute. They're like, yeah, what are you going to say? Yeah, well, now, can I be honest with you? And they took it in a whole different twisted way. And I just stood my ground, and then I just rinsed and repeat and just smiled. And I thought it was interesting that Dan brought me up on stage and wanted to, because he knew that's a good thing to do for an audience. You create engagement when you have something like that. But I stood my ground, and even standing there in front, he was trying to get me to switch a little bit, like just try a little bit of pressure. And I'm like, me, I'm not doing it. And afterwards, I had 3 women who came up to me and said, I totally agree. And one of them has been looking around for a retreat. And we've had Michelle Villalobos, we have Cheryl Knowlton, who does retreats, and her husband's been kind of encouraging her to do those, ladies. And she said, I told my husband, you're the one. When I'm ready to do a retreat, you're the one I'm going with. And I think it was that integrity piece. So whatever it is, whether you agreed or not is not the point. It's the integrity to what you believed. And it makes me think in the scriptures, when they're always like the core whores and the whoever, they're always trying to, we're going to pay you if you'll change your opinion, and we'll do all these things if you change. And they're not going to do that. They're not going to pay. They just want to get you to change your opinion and just waffle. So I would just encourage you to know what you feel. Now, I didn't have to be Attila the Hun with an egg beater. I didn't have to be all up in arms about it and get in the mix. I could just be me and just stand in my spot that I felt. Doesn't have to be something you feel strong about, but it was really important that I saw that, and that the women, people were watching. The audience was watching, and I could feel that they were watching me to see what I was going to say, and watching him what they were going to say. And this is a business card. What we are doing when we're speaking like that, everything on stage, off stage, it is saying who we are. So that was really important. Another thing was having relevant, passionate content. He did so many good things. He spent 4 hours speaking without slides. Now, he doesn't like to do slides because he doesn't want to be bothered. I love it. But he did 4 hours with no slides and no notes. He's been doing this forever. And I noticed when he clicked into a gear of content that was not passionate for him, that it was not relevant. He had Googled it. I could feel it. He did 8 steps of a story. I'm like, you don't even follow this. So 8 steps of a story, elements of a story, and blah, blah, blah. When he got more, as far as teaching how-tos, he's so into it when he's doing his stories. But on the how-tos, that's not really his jam. So if I was him, I would just stick with the how-tos of a story, like the things he knows, the organic things. Nobody would care if he's got these official points. He should stick with it being organic, in my opinion, that I will freely share if he ever asks me. But he did do like 4 sources of getting stories, and that was helpful. He said life experiences they've had. Number 2, transitions, moving, going to a school, getting a degree, losing a job, right? Those life transitions, getting a job. And then 3rd was bucket list, any bucket list items, climbing a mountain peak, swimming the 7 seas, whatever. But bucket list items, that's another good source for stories. And then the last one was C, SEE, significant emotional events. So a heartbreak, divorce, adoption, things like that could be, life experiences, but they're more of, this was a profound thing that shifted me. So it's a significant emotional event. When he talked about those, I was like right there. And I could tell he had some connection to it because it was directly related to sharing a story. So stay with content that's relevant and meaningful to you, because people can tell when you start going into cookie cutter and when you've Googled it or AI. All right. Any thoughts on that before I move to a couple of other things? Okay. A couple of things that were directly for speaking that I wanted to share with you that were great tips. I love one thought that he said, if you come for money, you will leave for money. I thought that was a really good point. We want to be wise and savvy and obviously get paid to speak. But I love the point that he made and Chad made. Chad made the point that he said he was asked his very first speaking gig after he had his accident. He was asked to speak at a church thing. And so he didn't want to do it, but he did it. He did a church thing. He said, I got 82 speaking gigs from that free thing that he did. So never discount a free thing. We just saw that with Katrina, where she went and did that smaller conference. Didn't look like it was very helpful, only a few people there, but now she's going to be able to certify as 2 coaches for free, right? There's always some kind of give back. Breadcrumbs on the waters, it comes back as loaves. It really does. Even if it's not immediate, I can promise you that. Always, no matter how big and sought after you get, I encourage you to always have a certain amount that you do gratis. Always. I always have at least a third. For a lot of years, it was at least half, sometimes 3/4 that I was doing free. And it was because it was a lot of church stuff. And I was like, it's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. Stake women's conferences and all kinds of stuff like that. So just know, if you're coming with the right intention, it loaves back in a lot of different ways. So don't worry about it. And the other thing is, don't worry about the number of people that show up unless you're in charge of the event. But as speakers, you don't have any say or impact on that. I've been to events where they didn't even advertise me very well. People didn't even know who was speaking. Like all of these things that you go, oh, we try to ask questions like that. Like, so what's your marketing plan and what's your whatever? But especially if it's a church thing, I never ask that because that's just so not the place. So you'll see that. And at the Stake Women's Conference that we just did for Amanda, that same thing happened. The poster did not even have any outcomes, didn't have any, what was going on, what they're going to learn, why they should even give up a morning. So they had half the number that they were anticipating. But we had 3 different women that we had conversations with after that were like, I want to come to a retreat, blah, blah, blah. It was amazing. So I always say, I never worry about the number of people there. And I mentioned, I think probably before, but Dan Clark had that experience where he was in a big arena thing and he only had 2, 3 people, 5 people, something like that. That was just down at the front, but there were 2 people way, way at the top. And he said he gave it his all. He gave it his all. And up at the top was an agent and a music agent. So to publish his music that he was doing at the time. And he said, if you'll do that for this few number of people, I know you'll give it every single time. So keep that in mind. All right. Oh, and I was just reading an article by a talk by President Eyring this morning. Teaching is a moral act. It's so good. It applies to speaking. I just kept putting speaking in there, but he was talking about hiring for BYU and how in 1991, they changed the hiring practice. And he said, we don't just want people who are published. We want people who care about the students, and that's speakers. They just don't want people who are going to come, they speak, they leave, they get their check and they go. They want people who care about their organization people. So something to keep in mind. Okay, some of the stuff I'll save the rest of this for fees because I want to have time to be able to talk about your keynotes. I'll save this for next time. We're talking about getting the gigs and fees and things like that. So I'll talk about this other stuff then. Teaching is a moral act. Faith is indispensable to teaching. We hardly know the potential of our students, but we send them signals each time we doubt and each time we believe. How did you get that so fast? Is that something you had on hand?
I just Googled it.
Oh, it's so good. Ladies, it's so good. It reminds you of seeing every single person and they're listening and they're being impacted by what your response is to them and their potential or not. It's so good. Okay, so then let me go to any questions or any thoughts on what I've shared. Okay, let's go to Chad. Anytime you can just interrupt me. No worries. All right. So Chad, before I left, I mentioned that I had run into Michelle McCullough and I said, hey, I'm coaching with Chad. Any suggestions? She goes, yes, keep him on track. He'll go off on stories. They all do. It's so funny, but just keep him on track. So I had my list of questions and I asked the core counsel, I said, do you have questions? So I had my list of questions. And like I said, the night before, I just got this feeling like what's going to happen is going to be internal. So the other piece you need to know is that I have been a little bit nervous. My sweet spot is right here, coaching on Zoom, doing some Utah speaking assignments. I've gone out of state, but doing speaking assignments here, crowds of 300-500. That's my comfy spot, right? At that, I just feel so comfortable, especially if it's women. Oh my gosh, I just feel like it's a party. It's so easy, right? But what I'm noticing, and the Lord is nudging me and saying, hey, kind of becoming your zone of excellence-ish, but you're not getting fresh. You need to be fresh, right? So I've had this little inkling and this little rumbling. So when I did a last speaking assignment, I almost didn't make it, not speaking assignment. It was when we did the influence conference for nationals. And we almost weren't going to make our flight. And so I just went ahead and got clear. Now I've been thinking about getting clear. You know, at the airport, you can go through super fast because it just checks you in fast. And I've been thinking about it, but I'm like, what an expense. And that's just ridiculous. I've already got Sky Miles, Delta. A lot of times I have Sky Priority, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. But we couldn't get on. We were going to miss it. The line had not moved and we had to get on. So I just went ahead and got clear. And I thought I can always cancel it if I need to, because she told me I could. So I thought that's fine. And then I had this thought, you need this. This is good preparation. I was like, So before I went to Chad's, I was like, I'm going to go coach with Chad. I got to look all business professional. I'm like going to my daughter, Chelsea, what do I wear to a coaching session at someone's ranch? So it's not actually business professional, but it's not in jogger. So what do I wear? Right. So it's all of these questions and then packing efficiently for a ranch experience and then going and speaking at a stake women's conference and then the clothes in between and only taking one carry-on. Like, do you hear what I'm saying? These are realities that women need to deal with, and one pair of heels that will do me solid the whole time. So it was a little experiment for me of, I get a little nervous about those kinds of things. I don't know if you ladies do, but those kind of realities are like, can I do that? Can I sustain that? Can I do that while I have an 11-year-old at home? Can I still travel? Do you see what I mean? It's all of these realities. So it was a little bit of an experiment. So I went, and the night before, Thursday night, I was supposed to have dinner with him and his wife. They invited me up to the ranch. It burned down and it's been rebuilt and it's beautiful. It's like an executive retreat facility and it's gorgeous. And then I was going to coach with him the next morning, 9 to 12, and then leave for my flight after. So his wife couldn't come. So he has this lady that helps out around. So she was kind of in and out. It's just him and me at the table, this huge retreat room. And I'm like, awkward with people. I know Chad. Like, it's not like we're buddies, but I know him. So at first it was just this awkward. And I'm like, how do I be professional? But I would usually be like, so, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Right. It's like, what do I do? How do I be myself, but not be myself, but be professional self? Like, so I try to walk the line in between. And I was just myself, and I asked him questions about his family and his life and but he just jumped right in. Okay, so tell me what's going on. Where are you at? And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, right now over dinner? Okay. So I keep smattering life questions in, and he kind of softens up. I don't think he knew what to do either, quite frankly. And so we got to a place that was a little softer. I go to bed. Now I will tell you, it's a funny, he's out in the heck and back. There's nothing. It's out like it's like northwest of Grantsville. There's nothing. And I'm in this cabin by myself, this old cabin, because the ranch is 2 miles down the road. So I'm in this cabin, dark, by myself. It's October. I'm telling you, every teaser trailer for a horror movie and the wind's howling and the coyotes are going. I'm not kidding. Yes, exactly. You guys, I'm not a scared person. I was like, I literally kept the light on all night. It was this cabin, dark and old and creaky, and horses are like, and that's when someone's coming to the house because they're going and the horses are awake. It was just like, oh my God. You're killing me. You're so cute. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to bed and I'm like, this is kind of a bust. Okay, so this is probably not going to work real well. But that's when I got that download. Stop. It's going to be good. It'll probably be internal. The next morning, I just had it be organic. I kept him on track. And this is another tip I want to give you. Anytime you meet with a high-level mentor, you have questions and you keep them on track. But I did it softly, organically. And do you know that when we took a potty break at 10:30, I had most of those questions answered without pulling my laptop. I just pulled out a little non-intimidating notebook and just took some notes. So I really, really love that. Okay. He said, and in the middle of those hard questions, got to put this on because my writing, I can't read it. But in the middle of the hardcore questions that I was asking, I asked life questions about his life and about and I asked some good questions. So write down really good ones. Like, what was a big money mistake you made? What was a moment that you felt like you didn't want to keep doing this? What was a hard thing when you started scaling and you had to involve people? What was a life lesson that you learned or a leadership lesson that you learned? Write down some of those questions because I got gold nuggets from that. And I'll share those. We'll do part 2, but I'll share those another time as well. Then the next thing was when I did that, he ended up opening up to me. And we ended up having a conversation about some very personal things. And at the end of our coaching, I was just wrapping it up. And then he said, let's keep this going. Let's not stop here. He said, let's text and do some accountability with each other. Let's do that. And I said, are you sure? And I had been pretty bold with him. There were some things that were personal for him. And I said, have you considered maybe how this feels for this person and what that could feel like? And what you doing X, Y, or Z could actually mean to them. And it was really cool. The spirit was so strong. And I could see that he was really thinking. And then I said, okay, what do you want to be accountable on? And he said, well, I can do this thing. And I said, well, what does that look like? And he was like, kind of smiling, like, turning the tables. And I said, okay, if I'm going to be accountable with you, then I'm going to ask those specific questions. And he said, I want that. That's good. So just so you know, it's a good thing, but we can still do it with a smile. One of the biggest thing, and this is one of the biggest things I wanted to share with you ladies, is that I need to charge my laptop. Okay. The biggest thing that I need to share with you ladies is, I alluded to it yesterday. Every time I was talking to him about moving forward, I said, here's my question. I'm feeling like I talked with Jason Hewlett at NSA. I just happened to chat with him and I saw him, said, hey, blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, can I get your opinion? I'm talking with people. I used to reach out there to the women of the world. And then the Lord pulled me back and said, I want you to train the trainers. So now President Kimball's quote, now I'm training the women that are Latter-day Saint. And now I'm hearing from people, if you want to go on big stage, you've got to be less niche like that, especially as far as spiritually. And you can still talk about spiritual things, but your lead, it's got to be less on that spiritual thing, kind of hitting them over the head with it. So I'm asking Jason, he goes, who's your market right now? And I said, Latter-day Saint mompreneurs. Essentially, he goes, you can own that market. Look at what Jody Moore's done with coaching, right? You could own that market. And I was like, then I think we're on the right plane. Now I have felt we're to do this group. We're supposed to include them and acknowledge them and emphasize them for a bit. So then I was confused because then I'm talking to Chad and I said, that's what I got. And he goes, nope. He said, if you want to do big stage, you've got to make it more applicable and you've got to make it for men and women. That's where you're going to get those big gigs and you're going to be able to reach those people and reach more people. And I told him about our funnel and he said that you're going to funnel people right back in to DTLC level, to mompreneur level, to DTLX, which is corporate level, right? They'll be able to choose which one fits for them. And that set right too. And I went, well, that makes no sense. So then as I was speaking to him, I was verbalizing and saying, I see the value in the mompreneur and I see the value in opening up to more leadership principles. And then I got it in the saying, I said, it can be a hybrid. I can be that trailblazer that blazes it out there, gets those big stage speaking gigs and bridges for you women. So that if people they want to talk about this, they want to talk about that, I can say, I've got women who can speak about that and plug you ladies in. And that's where it tethered. It made so much sense to me. When I got that aha, and it wasn't like it was more like a soft ah. And then I started thinking, okay, what could that look like then? And I asked myself, what if? And that's what I would ask you ladies. What if? What if? What if you did that thing that you keep putting 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, or maybe I could, or well, when everything kind of falls into place, or even a little more B plus, right? Then I could do that. The whole time I'm talking to him, after I got that shift, I said to him, well, I should probably do then a different and better keynote. And he looked at me and he goes, you probably already got your keynote. And I was like, it was that Jedi story that I like to tell. It was that Jedi moment. And I was like, I've already got my keynote. I just applied to leadership. And I was like, I got it. Yes, vision and the 80-20 principle. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I said, well, I don't know how to do big stage slides really well. Like I'm sure there's like these cool Jello things. And I see some of it when people come through NSA and he goes, no. He said, you probably already got really great slides. He said, if you're getting speaking gigs right now, you got great slides. I'm sure it's just great. And I was like, he's right. People love the slides that I put up. Now, it doesn't mean I can't change them or have someone do more show, don't tell, and it makes it the full slide and it's really pretty and whatever. But I still have that content. And I said, well, I mostly do content about women. Is that going to be annoying for the men? And he said, no. And then I went, I can fill it in with examples from books and other people. And then I went, I can do podcast interviews with leaders and show clips from these leaders. What's their biggest regret? What was the biggest money mistake? What was their whatever? And throw those in. I just boom, boom, boom. The third way that I hadn't imagined. Every single time I said, well, how do you find those gigs? How do you get those gigs? And he said, you already know people who can help you with that. And he's just doing a low effort job as a coach. That's what's happening. And I'm answering all the questions myself, which is a good coach, because I went, oh my gosh. And I realized I don't just talk to Jason Hewlett. I know him. I've interviewed him for Call to Create. I've donated to a cause he's done. I've spotlighted Clint Pulver on Studio 5. I've had a moment with Tiffany Peterson when we bonded over divorce. Like I have the circle of people that I had not even seen. What? How did I not see that? Because I didn't think I was there yet. And he said to me, Connie, you're there. You're already there. And he's pulling out of the 80 gigs a year and being more home. And I thought that was interesting. And he said, Clint Pulver, he's speaking twice a month. And like I mentioned, Brene Brown, twice a month. We don't have to go the fast track. We don't have to do 100 gigs a year, but we can choose intentional, purpose-driven gigs. And that if we do a good job, we can hit those key associations. And that's where you get the 50 speaking gigs. You speak for one association and you do a great job, American Family Insurance or whatever, and you talk about leadership or talk about not fitting the mold, or you talk about discipline, 5-minute habits in leadership, or whatever it might be, whatever topic. There's lots of genres that you can talk about. But if you do that and you apply it to them, their associations are all over. They have chapters all over. And you'll be able to speak your message. And like I said yesterday, not just speaking to be a speaker, unless that's what you want. If you want to just be a speaker and just get speaking gigs, that's great, as long as you know that. But you can speak your message and still be true to that message in front of insurance people and dental people. I'm telling you what, I'm reaching out to this dental gal because I was supposed to get in contact with her like a year and a half ago. And I was just like, don't have time for this. She teaches about how to get in with dental conferences. If you want to get in with conferences, dental, orthodontic, those people, they are clamoring for self-development stuff because their suicide rate and their mental health things are so bad, so bad. So it is something to consider, getting that under your belt, having that for experience, going and enjoying sharing your things with people who will pay for it and want to hear it, generally speaking. And a lot of times they'll bring wives to those conferences and you can do a thing for them. So I'm like, ooh, Chad has got this retreat place that is really geared for men, but can be for women. They got skeet shooting, pheasant hunting, things like that. I'm making a suggestion to him, have a spa, bring in some spa services. We can do a retreat there. And when you bring in these male retreats that are mostly male executive retreats, I can come and bring my ladies and we can do a seminar for you, for the women. And for a small price, for you only today, we can bring in these things for self-development for these women and get vision and all of that. And they're going to go home on fire and their husbands are going to learn stuff and go home and be so excited. Maybe not on fire. They'll probably be super relaxed because they're doing skeet shooting. But together, they're going to have become and learned. So I'm going to pitch that to Chad. And again, I'm like, DTL women, get ready. So anyway, there's a New York dental conference next month that's huge. Vegas, Utah, and Texas are big ones too. You are spot on, Sarah. Dan Clark said there are on any given day 60 speaking gigs, 60 conferences in Las Vegas on any given day that you can speak at. 60 conferences on any given day. So lots of opportunity out there. It's not about not finding the gigs. It's about matching yourself to the gig and then knowing you're ready for the gig. So I know I took a super long time on that. I'm so sorry. Let me see if there was anything else that I didn't add in that I thought was really important for you to know. It's already in me. Hang on. Oh, yes. Just wrapping it up, just to start now. Just think where you are now. What if you went 10 steps bigger? What if you went 10 steps bigger? What would 10 steps bigger look like? Oh my gosh, that would be speaking for Google, right? That for you, 10 steps might be Google. For another person's 10 steps might be speaking at women's conference, or it might be speaking for a dental conference, right? Because, oh my gosh, all the things I'd have to get in line for that to make that happen, that could feel like 10 steps. I encourage you to think that 10 steps. I know we talk about 10X, but it's 10Xing yourself, the 10 steps down the road, and then jump there. Just like we're bookending what we started with what Chelsea was saying and what I alluded to and Chelsea built on, which was do it before you're fully ready. That's that B+. And sometimes you're going to do it as a C-, and it's okay because you're more ready than you think. When I left Chad, it was just like this. It wasn't a fireworks. It was more of a unfolding and unleashing and shedding, and more of a, it's now, it's time. And there's no more excuses, and you're more ready than you know. Just do it and walk the talk. And as I was driving and doing that keynote, sorry, it's going to turn me up a little. It hit me. I am the keynote hook story for this. This story is perfect. Telling you just what I told you ladies now, shorter, more concise, is the keynote story. And I've got the names: Jason Hewlett, Michelle McCullough. I'm talking to Chad Hymas, going out to the ranch. I've got pictures unintentionally of this keynote hook story. And what happens from here is all going to be part of the story. And then I reached out to this person, and then I did this thing. You better believe that's lit a fire under my bum. And at NSA, I met this gal who is a friend of Dan Clark's that he brought, and she is a bureau lady. Now, I didn't want to be one of those people, so I didn't go right next to her, but I sat a few seats down. And then I did ask her opinion because I had to announce a speaker lab, and I had a fact that I wanted to share. And she's a bureau person, so I wanted to check it with her because it was about a speaker bureau, about using video footage. And she said, yes, that's true. And I said, okay, I just want to make sure I was spot on. Well, Dan, for once in our lives, the speaker had us get in groups. It only happens occasionally, in groups, and talk. We're in the same group. We got along like a house on fire. And now we're meeting on Monday. And I was like, we want to do a speakers bureau for you ladies and set up something like that-esque, right? And then I went, I'm looking for a speaker assistant who will help me with this journey of start moving this forward. Now, I don't know if she will, but if she doesn't, she can lead me to someone who can. And I saw how the Lord had prepared the path for this shift. Am I ready? Was I open? And as I was driving, this has been the buzzword for me the last couple of weeks, and maybe it is for you. It is, am I all in? Am I all in? Now, that doesn't mean we're slaving this 100% every day. I can't, there's no way. But it means that I'm intentional on the time that I'm going to put into this, and that every day I'm putting time into speaking, and not just for you ladies and not just for the DTL, because this is for you ladies essentially, but for me to be that person that's going to trailblaze the trail. Then this morning, I'm praying about this and I'm feeling this all in, and I've had to say it out loud to him. I invite you to say it out loud, something that you can say, Heavenly Father, I'm all in. I'm all in with this keynote. I'm all in with this track. I'm all in with women's conference. I'm all in with life after divorce. I'm all in with getting a podcast. I'm all in. You don't have to be all in with a whole bunch of the pieces at a time, but you can be all in with the concept. I'm all in with the speaker right now, and I'm all in with this piece. So I'm thinking about this, and I woke up this morning, and I don't usually, I get these emails from Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I rarely open them up because I've got so many things that I'm trying to go through and open up my 20,000 emails, not even clean them out. So I don't usually open them up, but something, I don't even know what it was. It's caught my eye. It was like 5 a.m, 4:30 this morning. Okay. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, so I open it up and I see this quote, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. I'm so sorry. You guys are probably going to throw something at me. If you have questions on your keynote, or if you have things that you want to talk about, I'm going to take just a couple of minutes after and tell you about homework. But if you have any questions, coach call with me, Mark on me, anything that you need. I just wanted you to share any questions or thoughts that you had in your keynote. And I know I've answered a bunch of them from what you've sent me already. So you're so cute, Sarah. You're so lovely. So I'm going to wrap this up with this being all in. My invitation, strong, pleading invitation with you today, ladies. Sorry. I speak about this, ladies. I teach this. My whole thing is helping you ladies do this. And I didn't see that I had to do it for me, that I had to be all in, and I wasn't. I've been pushing it off and just being like, not right now. We got so much going on. I can't do it right now. And he was like, I want your heart. I want your commitment, because I got things prepared for you. Are you all in? And I had to say, I'm all in. So I invite you to say what you're all in about, and say it daily, morning, afternoon, evening, putting on your makeup, going to bed, taking off the makeup, whatever it is, say it. I'm all in for, not just for him, but I'm all in for the podcast, for my keynote, for my speaking. Anyway, here's this quote from William Hutchison Murray. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And I shared that in the WhatsApp, but I don't know if anybody saw it because it was so dang early this morning. But that solidified it for me, that ladies, we are capable of so much more. The phrase kept coming to me, we are living beneath our privileges. This is not doing more. It's being open more. It's going deeper. It's being more receptive and saying, my vision, I'm going to expand it. And I'm open to a bigger vision and not running from it or afraid of it or avoiding it or pushing it away. He's got a lot prepared for us, and it can be meeting one person who opens this door, and before you know it, you have 82 speaking gigs lined up. That's how it works. So I want to share that with you. And I just do feel to say, I love that, Sarah. If you have a desire, you're called to the work. I do want to say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Now, about what you're doing this week. So the assignment this week is we are going to be working on, last week, if you watch the modules, it's the 5 P's of performance. Well, you can watch that one, and also the tech, timing, and slides. Now, you're probably working on your keynotes, so if you get a chance, watch those. This next week, I'm asking you to send me one point again, a different point than what you've shared. If you've, no one's shared all 3 of them yet, but it's share another point with me and then use a slide. So if you have Zoom, you can use the free Zoom app and then just watch the module. It teaches you how to switch to slides effectively so it's smooth. But then as you're going along, switch over to your slide, speak a little bit, and then come back and use the tips that are in that module. Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to get my keynote finished, don't rock my world, that's fine. Finish your keynote and get it done. And then just know on the final, you will need to do a slide. You will need to show me that you know how to go easily into a slide and slide back out. No pun intended. Does that make sense? Okay, so either this week or down the road, but we got to do it. And then final keynote rough. Everybody should have by this week, final keynote rough. So your 5 S's, your call to action, close, testimonial, your hook, all the things. If you want to send me your final outline, I'm happy to look it over. If you want to do any parts of it that you feel like are gappy or you can't find a 5S to go right with it, just let me know. I'm happy to help you. And then we are going to be studying your speaker one sheet this week. So super fast. I know we're out of time, but super fast. I'm just going to show you mine really, really quickly. And you can kind of get an idea. I hope it lets me share screen because I have a lot of stuff open. Okay, this is just a sample. It's an idea of a one sheet, and we go over it in the module, so don't stress it, but just gives you an idea. You want a pop headshot. Nothing that is you standing in the woods or wearing a cool hat, nothing like that. Unless something signature, like Chelsea and her red glasses, that would be signature. Something that's signature is different, but something that looks home jobby, no. So a nice headshot and something with personality. I chose this, we call it the smirky smile picture on the back end for us when we distinguish them between others. So I got this little smirky smile, little Mona Lisa attempt of like, I know something you don't know and you want to find out. So, and a little messy bit of the hair. The photographer, I told her, can you put that down? And she goes, no, otherwise it looks like it's Photoshop. So we keep it like that. I was like, oh, fine. Your name is big. They're going to flip through these. They got 60 in a stack. You got to have your name so it's really clear. And then being able to give a cool bio right off the bat, your credibility. If they have to cut everything but that first sentence, when they pass it along to other meeting planners, you want to make sure that first sentence is there. Split it up so there's white space. You can do speaking topics. You can do speaking and takeaways. So one topic and then 3 takeaways that you're going to give them. And right now that's really hot. People like that. And then endorsements. So testimonials, praise, something. I got Dan Clark and I got Clint Pulver. Get the highest level person that you feel can do that. I am happy to give a testimonial once I've seen you speak. And that's a rule across the board for everybody. I have to see you speak so I can give it. And I am careful with my endorsements. I need to know, and that's how I feel about all our speakers. I need to know that I know you can get on that stage and you can do it. Now don't be scared because that's at a B+ level. I'm still learning as well. And I've been doing this for 30 years, but I just want you to know I am careful about that. I don't throw it around like buttermints. And then when you start speaking, just use the logos as much as you can. BYU Education Week. Oh yeah, there's a logo for that. Studio 5, they're actually with NBC. So when they were helping me do this, they're like, well, it's actually NBC. And I said, well, okay, put NBC on there because it's NBC. Now you want to make sure you are absolutely honest. Can I say I'm honestly on NBC? Absolutely. It's an NBC affiliate. And I even checked with Studio 5. So just know I make sure that I am honest in everything I do. But if you can be clear and you can promote it better and put the peacock on there, heck yeah, absolutely. So that's what's due this week. Any questions on that? Just keep following the homework and the modules. Any questions, you just reach out to me, Marco, and send me that 1 point. And if you want to do the slide this week, great, that would be awesome. Any questions at all? So sorry. All right, thank you so much. Did you get something out of today? I'm feeling badly that I spoke a whole lot. I'm so sorry. The one sheet,
fantastic.
I'm good. So glad you got something. No, I'm not trying to get validation. I just really I was like, oh my gosh, I literally spoke that almost the entire time. So sorry. Thank you for your patience. Speaker one sheet, rough points are due next week. So rough. It also has a module on your bio, how to do your bio. So just start roughing out your bio, roughing out what you think would be good for your speaker one sheet. Okay, I think I'll do this picture and maybe I'll do this for my bio. Oh, and this could be a good point. Even you just have one keynote title. That'll be my one keynote title. My 3 takeaways are those points. And then, where have I spoken before? To start brainstorming where you've spoken and if you can get a logo of where that's been. Okay. Nice job. Thanks, Sarah, for keeping me online and on track. All right. Love you, ladies. See you next time. Oh, sorry. We won't see you next time because I've been invited to speak at BYU. So I will put something on WhatsApp of what day we're going to switch it to or an earlier time. So I'll put that on the WhatsApp and we can figure out what's going to work. So we'll still meet next week, just not this exact time maybe. All right. Love you. Hop on in whenever you're ready. Smiley face.